Yo, what's up, guys? We're back at it on the E46. It's still in the lift. I don't know if I ever actually said what color I was going to make it, but we're going to make it orange, just like the Z was. I was going to wrap it, but I didn't have enough wrap to wrap it, and I just haven't ordered any yet. And thankfully I didn't, because I ran into some other problems. So the wrap or the paint, whatever we decide there, is going to have to hold off and wait, because it can look pretty all at once, but if it doesn't run right, it serves no purpose. So we got the 5.7 in here, you know, aluminum LS1. And we came out one day, and we had it running, let it warm up. We were going to take it for a little drive, because we haven't driven in about a month. So we were like, whatever. But we found a coolant leak, and it looks as if the block is cracked. It's not like a crazy crack, just a little hairline crack, it looks like. I'm not sure. Not something I want to deal with too much. And it looks like it's been 2 other times that this has happened on this block, because there's like a JB Weld stuff on the block in 2 different areas. I think that's why that would be there. I don't know what the stuff is, but that seems to be the issue. The car's been through like 3 or 4 different people since the guy that actually put the car together sold it originally. And we were looking for the coolant leak on our end, and then we ran into those 2 spots. So I have decided that instead of repairing the crack that I have the same way, or even going back and say welding it up, or having a buddy weld the block up, seal the cracks up that way, we are just going to put in a new engine. And this is a 6.2 LS, so I guess technically it's an LS3. I'm not sure what it came out of, as in if it came out of a truck or a car, Escalade, you know, whatever. I don't know where it came from. The guy I bought it from had it sitting on a stand in his shop. It actually has a cracked piston because a valve seat fell out of the head. So we were going to repair that. We were going to replace the piston with a stock piston, and we are probably going to replace all of the rings and bearings in the bottom end, except for the cam bearings, because if you don't look at them, they're not bad, right? But that's the damage on the cylinder. The valve seat happened. We could probably do away with, like, just putting a valve seat in here and sending it with that head, but I think I'm going to replace that head altogether. You might be able to see the crack in there. But you can definitely see where the valve or the seat actually hit, that big ring right there. Just to show that it is a 6.2. So we're going to put that in the E46. So we actually started removing everything out of it already. We actually haven't got very far. I got the drive shaft out, and I got the Y pipe of the exhaust off. We're not going to take it slow and steady. We're not going to rush this. We're not in a hurry. We're trying to make sure that we're ready for when drifting starts up here near St. Louis, so we can catch events as soon as we can. But we're not going to rush the situation. If we got to miss some early events, we got to miss some early events. It is what it is. But as far as the 6.2 goes, we are going to replace that piston. We're going to put new bearings and new rings and everything. So we are going to hone everything. We're going to look over some stuff, make sure nothing crazy, like obvious, is broken. As in, you know, cylinders are straight, stuff like that. We're not going to go crazy on the build. Like, we're not going to run it through the machine shop, have them look over every little small detail. We're not doing all that. But we will be putting in a cam. And then we're going to do lifters and trays while we're there. And then, of course, push rods, springs, retainers. oil pump, and then we're going to throw all the LS1 accessories on the front of it, and we're going to throw it in the car. But this is going to be a little time lapse, just removing the engine. It might be kind of choppy because I kind of forget to record when I'm at home, get caught up in living life, and just kind of forget. So stay tuned, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Alright, we got the steering shaft, collar, thing that connects the shaft to the rack. Basically my plan is to drop everything out the bottom, drop the subframe, everything out the bottom with the lift. But gotta get the steering rack situation. I completely forgot about it when I came up with the idea that I was just gonna drop everything out. So we got the shaft off. Now we're going to undo the tie rods off of the knuckles. And then we got to take the sway bar off because it's in the freaking way. And then for those that don't know, when you have like a spherical bushing, use a zip tie. That way you don't use your little collars inside. Alright, got the power steering cooler off the sway bar because that's where it was mounted. Now we can pull the sway bar out so it's out of the way, so we're not trying to fight with it. Some of the stuff we're just removing because it's going to be less of a hassle to pull the engine out. Something we don't got to watch for. Like we could probably get it out with the sway bar there, but just take it off, get it out of the way. Don't have to worry about it. Sway bar is out. It wasn't connected anyway. Not 100% sure why, but whatever. I know that on this coil, the end link is actually snapped up here. I don't know if it broke on somebody or if they cut it, whatever. But we don't run a sway bar. And everybody has their opinion on running sway bars. Some people think you need them. Some people think you don't. Some people think you need them on this track. Some people don't. Run a sway bar if you want to. If you don't, don't. Because nobody cares. Alright. We have the sway bar out of the way. We're going to let this dangle. We're going to drain all the fluids out anyways. And this is actually a pretty easy place to do it. We can unhook it from the rack here drain it out, and it'll drain the whole system. Then we're gonna, drain oil, coolant, all that stuff. We're gonna try to make as little of a mess as we can, but you're gonna make a mess regardless. All right, I'm gonna bring you up in here. I'm gonna try to show the places that JB Weld substance or whatever it is. I'm saying that because I don't know what it is. I've never used it. But right there, you can see it. It appears to be JB Weld or something of that nature. That's on the driver's side, and on the passenger side, there's a spot right up there behind the starter. I don't know if I can get you in there to see this one, but you can see the coolant dripping off the starter, off the bottom of the pan. Basically, I started it up, and I had a spot on the floor, and I investigated the leak, try to figure out what it was, and that's what it ended up being. And that's where the leak is now. It's sort of right behind the starter, and I'll show you right here, kind of. It's like this is the repair, and the leak is right over here. It's right next to where the repair was. I assume maybe the cracks just kind of continued on. So that was kind of our decision. It's just been repaired twice already, and it's going to continue to happen. It's just time to replace it. Long term or short term, however, whatever, we are going to take this 5.7, and it's going to be sitting on the floor. We might try to sell it as is, see what we can get for it as is. It does run, it does rip, it's awesome. It never overheated since I've had it. So this crack might have happened recently. Anyhow, it rips, it runs, and we might try to sell it as is, see if somebody else wants to repair it, weld it up, or just JB weld it, run the engine, I don't know. Or we might let it sit for a little while. And I had a thought somebody else brought up to me that I could take a 5.3 iron block, bore it out to a 5.7, and just swap all these internals over to the iron block, and then have an iron block LS1. I don't know if there's many benefits to that or not, but that might be our route. All right, while we got the car in the air, I think we got the majority of things we can take loose and off, except for the subframe and the trans mount. So we're gonna go ahead and drain everything while we got it in the air. Best part about this, or the only good thing about this part, is we needed an oil change anyway. And changing fluids on the lift is always a good time. Fancy Holly oil pan. Look, this Milwaukee light is amazing. I take this thing when I go to the track just in case we have to do some kind of repairs or something at night, and it's awesome. Sometimes it's a little too dang bright, but it's better to not be able to see because you got too much light than not enough, or any for that matter. It's been running the VR1 and this thing, and that stuff is like freaking syrup. So got the fluids all drained out, and we went ahead and lowered it down, and we got the intake off. We got a couple more wires off, got the rad hose off. But it's pretty much ready to come out. We got to undo the wiring harness from this cluster. I haven't figured out the best way to do this yet because it is a mess in there apparently. And then undo the subframe, undo the trans mount, and we got to take the slave cylinder clutch line off. And then it's ready to drop out. So the next clip will be of the car and the engine becoming not best friends anymore. All right, so we got the BMW lowered on the lift. We got a couple blocks underneath the trans and the engine. On the engine side, it's actually underneath like the subframe. And the rear, there's a brick and then a couple 2x4s holding the transmission up. I was going to use this table here and then lower the engine and stuff, like let it go down and then lift the car up off of that, let it sit on that table, but I don't think that table's sturdy enough to hold this, and I'm just not up for risking it. So now we're going to take the transmission bracket bolts out and then the subframe bolts out, and the engine should, in theory, stay where it's at, and we should be able to lift the chassis of the car up. We do still have the clutch line to disconnect, and then a couple of the engine harness stuff, but this will give us room in the engine bay to say pull the harness through the hole and get to the clutch. All right, we got it coming out. We forgot to do the throttle cable and then the catch can. Or the power steering reservoir. I wasn't sure, but this is what I meant by the wiring. Pulling this out of that hole with the engine down a little bit is going to be a lot easier than doing it with the engine up here. But we're coming out. And we gotta get to the clutch line. This is the quick bleeder, so you don't have to lay underneath the car. We just gotta tuck this down, and then that's the clutch line there. But she's coming out. Alright, so what we're doing is we're trying to hassle that wiring harness through that little bitty hole. And this stuff was not put in here very well. It's just kind of shoved in here. So trying to figure out how to get it out. It's not been the greatest task. Alright, so the 5.7 is out of the car. Now we're gonna just lift the car all the way up, and then we'll cherry pick the engine and trans out from underneath the chassis. And then we'll begin the process of fixing the 6.2 and getting it, prepping it, put it in basically the opposite way we took this out. But for now, I'm gonna end this episode there. Don't want these things to get too lengthy. So stay tuned for the outcome. And like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that stuff. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.